There has recently been a handful of updates in the current global version of Where Winds Meet, including the ability to finally create a new character. This is big news because now players can create a new character at a new difficulty. To be more specific, the most challenging difficulty so far is Legends mode. And if you go under the Expert category, it's right here, Legend mode. And essentially, every time you take down a boss or a difficult trial, you're going to unlock an additional badge that looks like this. The issue before was that if you created a character in a lower difficulty, you were not able to change that. But now's an opportunity for players to truly test out the Legend difficulty. And stay tuned because Hardcore is right around the corner. So, when it comes to Legend difficulty, I wanted to highlight a handful of tips and tricks to make your life a little bit easier. The first thing I want to call out is just the importance of some of these Divinecraft options right here. So you can see I'm using Toxic Powder. I definitely need to get some more because I only have 2 of these, but there are a handful of fort farms just to really stock up on these. Previously, and let's just go ahead and show you guys what exactly Divinecrafts are. There's 3 different elements currently. There's fire, water, and poison. In my opinion, poison is definitely the most helpful when it comes to some of the bosses in Legend difficulty. You can see that the overall impact just seems to be the most noticeable, in my opinion, based on the damage output. Now, typically, if players wanted to actually utilize these Divinecrafts, it's a bit of a manual process. They have to kind of adjust the hot bar down there in the corner, and you actually manually equipped it. But there is a way to streamline that and make it a whole lot easier. If you go to the settings menu and go to game and scroll all the way down, there's an option to auto use Divinecraft tool. This will automatically proc the Divinecraft you have equipped and just make your life a whole lot easier. I do recommend making sure it's on auto use, at least for the boss battles. Feel free to turn it off after boss battles, but again, this will maximize your damage output. On top of that, consumables, of course, you're going to want the max tier health potions wherever you are in the game, just to make sure you can get a burst of health. On top of that, there's other consumables like double shreds that can boost your physical attack, or pufferfish soup that boosts your HP. There's also scripts that provide even more benefits. So if you are finding it a certain boss a little bit too difficult, feel free to proc all of those different consumables. And just to show you guys how it works, once you actually consume one of these, you'll see the buff show up right above your HP bar. And then you'll be ready to go and start fighting. Friendly reminder, before I jump into some more of these tips, consider liking and subscribing to this video if you've learned something new, or if these tips actually helped you take down a specific boss in Legends mode. Now back into some of the tips. The one thing I wanted to call out in regards to actual combat itself is notice how I'm doing as much damage as possible in that phase where the boss is exhausted. I'm not just clicking F. This is an opportunity for you to max out damage as much as possible. Additionally, parry is your best friend. Some players in Legend difficulty actually just hold the block button and then try to time the parry over and over. They don't even attack until this exhausted phase. So again, if you're struggling, that's another option to kind of test out and see if you get any luck with. Next up, it's very important to talk about how you can develop your character to prepare for these Legends-based fights. First things first, you want to make sure every single slot is fully enhanced here in your Develop tab. I'm telling you, there are insane bonuses for every single piece. So if you are not already maxed out there, make sure that's your #1 priority. Additionally, you should be hitting the threshold for every single level cap in your arsenal. Just repurpose your old gear. It's worth it. I mean, every single tier gives you more bonuses, and it's just free stats to throw on your character. Next up, when it comes to actual weapons and your gear in general, you want to make sure that you are fully tuning them to make sure that you pick up as many benefits as possible. Again, this is a make or break situation. You really want to max out all of these pieces of gear. I mean, be smart about it to make sure you're only tuning gear that actually has good initial stats. But to be more realistic, you want to make sure you focus on certain stats that go with your build. For example, I like to use the Mortal Rope Dart with the Rodent Rats, and minimum physical attack really helps out on that. The other thing worth calling out is that there are certain gear sets that will provide additional benefits. For example, I have 3 out of 4 Hawkwing set pieces, right? And the game recently had an update that will allow you to change the actual set type of certain pieces. So if you scroll down and hit this little icon right here, I can essentially change this Rain Whisper set piece to Hawkwing and then pick up the 4 out of 4 gear set bonus, which will boost my martial mastery and also my overall damage output tremendously. So if I scroll down, you can see I already had that bonus for the 2 pieces, but now I have all of these different bonuses because I have a full complete set of 4 pieces of that specific set. So again, make sure you choose a certain set and max it out just to pick up even more bonuses. Additionally, of course, you want to make sure you upgrade both of your weapons. You can do this through this menu right here. I prefer these 2 weapons, so I max them out. I'm not really upgrading anything else because I want to save my coins for future tuning and just upgrades in general. And then the last 2 buckets, Inner Ways and Mystic Skills. When it comes to Inner Ways, if you are playing in Legend mode, I highly recommend you move forward with Morale Chant. And honestly, I was a big fan of Fivefold Bleed, at least from the early to mid game. So up until level 80 or so, I honestly think this is a great choice regardless of your class, unless you're like full-on healer, which I don't think is really the case for anybody. But again, Fivefold Bleed seems to help with damage output against these bosses in Legends mode, and has definitely helped me out quite a bit. For your other 2 Inner Ways, regardless of what your class is, I recommend you lock in a gold Inner Way and a purple Inner Way, and make sure that they are class specific to make sure you maximize survivability and damage output. For my build, Echoes of Oblivion and Vendetta just made the most sense, but realistically, you want to lock in 4 and upgrade them as much as possible to pick up all the benefits you can. When it comes to Mystic Skills, I highly recommend that you play around with these quite a bit because the open world PvE and then also kind of like the one-on-one boss fights will require the usage of different types of Mystic Skills. So for example, Lion's Roar and Ghostbind, I think are great against like a ton of open world mobs and NPCs. But when it comes to boss fights, I like to use things like Guardian Palm. And again, I have a video kind of highlighting some of these different Mystic Skills that have good combos in different scenarios. So be sure to check out that video in the top right corner as well. Now, the other thing that honestly is pretty self-explanatory, but for some reason, a lot of players just don't tend to do it, is to do these mini games throughout the open world. I'm talking about fishing, I'm talking about chess, I'm talking about everything that you can really interact with an NPC that will provide you with a reward. The reason you want to do this is because it gives you a handful of rewards every single time you complete these, including coins, character experience, exploration points, and even certain attributes that will kind of help towards certain aspiration skills. Again, I highly recommend that you do as many of these as possible because it will eventually help you develop your character further. If you are stuck on a boss, don't just keep trying over and over and over again because sometimes that's not the answer. Sometimes you have to take a step back and explore the open world and look for some more activities that you just haven't completed yet that will give you the resources you need to complete that tuning on that piece of gear, to enhance a certain gear slot, or anything else in between. So again, make sure you are exploring the open world and doing what you can to max out your character. And the last thing I did want to call out too is that every single time your character upgrades its breakthrough level, the enemies and the bosses around you get more difficult. Yes, you will get more rewards when you actually complete those different challenges as your breakthrough level increases, but the fight itself will also get a little bit more difficult. So you have to be smart on when you are challenging bosses in Legends mode to make sure that you're getting the most out of your character. For example, at level 80, I'm still using level 71 gear, and in ideal situations, I want to be at the max level using my max level gear that's related to my level as well to make it a little bit of an easier fight. So again, just keep in mind that as your breakthrough level increases, so do the difficulty of all of these bosses and even the open world NPCs when you're playing in solo mode, which can be a factor on certain boss fights for sure. And that covers it really. I can go on and on about more helpful tips, but these tips I highlighted in the video should be enough to get you started to be a little bit more successful in your journey on completing this game in Legends difficulty. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for some more Where Winds Meet content coming soon. Thanks again. Bye.